Streaming has revolutionised the music industry, but for whose benefit? Artists now struggle to earn the same living as performers that made their fortunes from CDs and vinyl sales. Judge Jules was once hailed as the best DJ in the world. He's also a music lawyer. He thinks a good grasp of the law is key for a prosperous future in the industry. Judge Jules, thanks for joining me on the show today. Now, you're known as one of the world's biggest DJs. I know you from my youth and watching you and listening to you. But for those people out there that perhaps don't know you, they might be a bit younger than us, can we start with why you're actually called Judge Jules?
I got into DJing via promoting events when I was 16, and the best time to start promoting really is when you're that young, because what you don't realise when you're 16 is that's when you've got the biggest social circle you're ever going to have in your life. And of course, with each passing 5 years, your social circle halves. And when you reach my age, by this point, it's almost non-existent. But the good thing was I was putting on events at that age. Many of them were illegal events, and I should probably point out that illegal then was a lot less illegal than it now is, because the laws were subsequently tightened up.
Yeah.
And when we were promoting those illegal events, the police came to the door. They thrust innocent 18-year-old DJ Jules to the door to say... Okay. And I was a law student at the time, basically told the police, this is for me and my law student chums, officer. And from there came the name of the judge. I'm not a real judge, I should hasten to add, but in my mind's eye, I am anyway.
You became a lawyer. You did a law degree, but you were also a studious boy from North London, right? You sort of had a twin-track life. Is that fair to say?
I think there are quite a lot of people in the music business who do come out with a degree and have a sort of educated background. I don't think I was the only person in that environment, but we were part, when I was 16 to 21, we were part of a sort of collective, if you like, that put on raves. That's what we did. A couple of us were at university, a couple of us probably came from families where nobody had ever been in any generation to university, but that was the kind of fun thing. We were doing it for all the right reasons, because we absolutely loved what we did. We loved the music we were supporting, and the music we were supporting didn't really have any outlet. You
lost your mum when you were 18 years old. That's incredibly young to lose your mum, and I'm sorry, and I lost my mum, so I know how rough it is. Did that kind of change your outlook? You know, did it kind of change your view about how you wanted to live your life, or the risks you wanted to take, maybe? I think it had two. It had one impact that I only realised quite a long time afterwards, which was the healing power of music. It's funny because when during the pandemic I started doing live streams. I've done about 100 live streams. I'm still doing them periodically now. And whereas when you go out and DJ, you might have a few beers and you might sort of be a little bit tipsy. When you do a live stream, you're completely stone cold sober. And I was getting such a buzz out of doing these live streams. And it was that was my eureka moment. But wow, music was what really helped me through what was quite a traumatic time in my life. And then, of course, the other thing, I think you would get the same answer out of anybody who loses a parent early. It makes you realise it might all be gone tomorrow. It makes you realise the finality of life. And it sort of kicks you into action, arguably faster than it would for others who have a slightly less sorry tale to tell at a similar age. You are the first generation of celebrity DJs. You were voted the best DJ in the world. Let's just pause and enjoy that. In 1995 by the DJ Mag. What was it about the late 80s and 90s that gave rise to this particular phenomenon of the world-famous DJ? What was it about that time? Or was it quite a magical time? It was a magical time. I mean, it was... I suppose what changed everything, and I don't want to sound like a Luddite, because the internet, or high-speed internet, in many ways has been the ultimate propagator of all things artistic. Yeah. But before high-speed internet, the only way that you could discover this incredible music, this incredible vibe, was via a limited amount of touch points, which was kind of a handful of magazines, record shops, specialist record shops, a couple of shows on Radio 1, and of course these super clubs that existed in many, even quite small cities throughout the UK.
And I've always thought that the one thing about clubbing stroke festival culture is it's almost like the last bastion of an opportunity to hang out with people you don't know in a kind of for the most part, a very safe environment.
And Jules, the dance music scene back then, as we both know, was strongly associated too with hedonism, with partying, of course, with illegal drugs. Looking at you, you are definitely not one of those who are the casualty of hard living, may I say. You're looking very good. Was it unusual to stay removed from all of that aspect of the lifestyle? Or was it more common than maybe people thought? Like, you could be involved, but you didn't have to kind of partake in the heavy drug taking, for example?
I think the hard partying sometimes, dare I say it, is in the people who hang around, you know, whether they're DJs or whether they're musicians. It's often the people who are sort of hanging around them rather than the artists themselves, because it's the life that it's a job, but it's a job that you're being paid to do, something that you would willingly pay others to let you do. But at the same time, you know, it's a very hardcore existence. I was doing 200, 250 shows a year, probably 200 flights a year. I still do, not far shy of that now, but going around the world, doing a long-haul trip every fortnight, which sounds like, on the one hand, it's a schoolboy's dream. On the other hand, you simply couldn't be absolutely sort of battered and bruised and do that. It just wouldn't work.
Has it got more difficult for musicians and artists to earn a living because of streaming and because of the way in which the industry's changing?
It's got more difficult to make a career for yourself. Sticking your head above the parapet has never been more difficult. Now there are between 60,000 and 70,000 Spotify releases a day.
Yeah. It's nuts, isn't it?
You've got to be an all-round marketeer. You've got to be business savvy. Making good records just isn't enough.
Just on this, Ed Sheeran was recently awarded £900,000 in legal fees, a very high-profile case after winning that copyright chart in which he and two of his co-writers were accused of plagiarising part of a song called Oh Why by a relatively unknown artist, Sammy Switch. Where did your sympathies lie in that case?
It's very difficult because one thing that as a lawyer, you need to understand that a copyright infringement case has a lot of different layers. It has expert opinion. It has obviously what the judges do. Yeah. On the one hand, there is an increasing culture of creatives screaming plagiarism, both in copyright and in other areas of intellectual property. Yeah. And it's a good thing if the bar is set a little bit higher to prevent, dare I say it, sort of lawyers working on no-win, no-fee, on a no-win, no-fee basis, agreeing to act on the behalf of people screaming blue murder. On the other, you do feel for, you know, the little guy who's suddenly got to stump up a huge amount of legal fees.
Do you think that case was avoidable then? Do you think that case shouldn't have come to court?
In my view, no. If I listen to the two songs, it's an ever-moving feast, and there isn't really a right or wrong answer. In fact, on Sky, I commented a few times when that case was adjudicated. But no, in that particular case, no.
Let's just move on to politics. A massive unforeseen challenge faced by the industry was the pandemic and COVID. How was that for you? Was it really difficult?
COVID was difficult for me, but much more difficult for my peers because I've got this dual life. Yeah. My legal practice was very strong. Many of my peers fell through the cracks because a lot of people in the creative industry were advised by their accountants to set up your own small business and pay yourself in dividends. That was the stock accountant's advice to not just musicians, just about everybody. Now, if that's the way you paid yourself, you got zero support from the government. Right. And even though a lot of people were crying out to Rishi Sunak to do something about it, he never did.
I want to ask you about one of your former colleagues, DJ Tim Westwood. He's been accused of sexual misconduct between 1992 and 2017, something which Tim Westwood has denied. This week, the BBC revealed it did receive complaints about alleged sexual misconduct and bullying by the DJ, one which was referred to the police. When you saw those reports, which you know Tim Westwood, did it surprise you?
I don't know Tim Westwood well enough to know whether any of it is true or not, but to learn that the BBC denied ever having received complaints and now it has been discovered that there were not just one but a number of complaints is a really bad look for the BBC, a really bad look. So I don't feel sort of qualified either legally or morally to comment on what Tim Westwood did, because I simply don't know. But this does not reflect well on the BBC, that's for sure.
What, you think the BBC have potentially been involved in a cover-up?
Well, due to freedom of information, they're a public body for whom freedom of information applies. They were never going to be able to cover it up. It seems either very incompetent or a cover-up.
I guess the question would be then, given that you worked there, was there a sort of culture like that at the BBC during the time you were there? Do you think, or back in that period of time, did you witness that? Did you ever pick that up?
No, I would say quite the opposite, actually. But then I was at the BBC immediately after Jimmy Savile. Well, not after the Jimmy Savile stuff happened, but after it came out. I started on the BBC a couple of years later, and so if anything, there was a really proactive attempt to be inclusive, to not allow that to happen. So it's disappointing that that similar stories have occurred, but again, I don't want to sort of cast aspersions on what did or didn't happen.
No, what do you think the BBC should do about it now?
There's got to be serious internal questions asked about how it was said in the first instance, whenever it was a couple of months ago, that nothing had occurred, when there is when the proof of the pudding has been discovered so soon afterwards. Something has gone very wrong. How the decision-making worked in the upper echelons of the BBC, I don't know, but questions, I mean, it sounds like a very vague answer, but questions certainly need to be asked.
OK. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining me on the show. I really enjoyed that, and have fun in Ibiza.